One, we are live on LinkedIn. Thank you, Karina, for being with us. It's such a pleasure. I have been planning this live for quite some time, thinking about how maternity leaves are planned, unplanned, well calculated in advance, or completely, taken by surprise by some of my clients, some of my friends, some of my peers whom I see navigate this break very strategically, and some others not really. So, since we just celebrated Mother's Day, I thought it would be really a great opportunity. First, I will introduce you so people understand your background. Karina has been working in marketing for many years now, spent a decade at eBay. Most recently, she moved to a company called DIA. So this is the Drug Information Association based here in Zurich. Karina is originally from Brazil, but has been living in Zurich for some time, speaks German, is now becoming Swiss, married to a Swiss, and had a baby. And I think he's 9 months, right?
He's 11, just turned 11.
11. There you go. Sorry, I missed that.
No
So thank
worries.
you again for being with us, Karina. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, for having me here for the invite. And I'm really excited. And yeah, hello to everyone. Excited for being here and to share the knowledge.
Yeah, we have so many future moms or current moms who are probably watching us now. And oh God, I wish I had access to so much information when I needed this kind of guidance. And I suppose you also discovered as you navigated the complications of these maternity leaves what impact they have on our careers, on our financial lives, on our personal. So I even published recently something about how we learn from maternity, what skills we develop, because we do get better as a result. So we just want to highlight a few of these. So without further ado, I will let you take the floor, Karina, and we can share our discoveries with the followers who are with us today. We are live on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and this is going to be saved to YouTube so people can watch it later.
Awesome.
Yeah, I took the liberty of putting together a little presentation, very short, but here you go. This is your family.
Yes, I love
That's your
it. The
picture on WhatsApp. I
picture.
took it and I thought, okay, this could be fun. Let's share it. So this is it. So when we, as let me just share this again here. Yes, when we have the luxury to plan maternity leaves, um, would you say you planned yours, or it was kind of a surprise, or did you have time to go and see the options that you or not? Like, tell me a little bit about your strategy there, because
I, It was a bit planned, so I
yeah,
must say. So Manuel and I wanted to have kids for
yeah,
a while, and actually we had some challenge. So it did take some time for us
to
to
get
really,
yeah,
for me to get pregnant. So once this really happened, then we did, sit and we talked a little bit on how we wanted to do that. So in Switzerland, we have, in my opinion, unfortunately, really small paid
yeah,
maternity leave legally. So of course, this can depend from company to company, but
yeah,
by law in Switzerland, you only have 16 weeks, which for me it's quite
short, yeah,
little. Yeah, not a lot compared even to other countries in Europe, northern countries. I
yeah,
think also Switzerland falls a little bit behind when it comes to parental leave, not
yeah,
having the flexibility of sharing. And men actually recently are entitled for 2 weeks
yeah,
parental leave, which is definitely a progress, but for me, still also not a lot.
mhm,
So, of course, then we had to sit and decide, okay, do I want to take a bit longer or how we are going to do that? And I think luckily and fortunately, we had I would say, the luxury of taking a longer maternity leave. So because I took some time, as I said, to get pregnant, I
Mhm.
really decided I wanted to spend time with my son, and especially because I don't know if I will be able to have a second one. Also,
Mhm.
unfortunately, we women have a bit of our biological limitations,
Yeah.
right? And I did take some time. I decided first to focus on my career. I really
Yeah.
pushed my career. um, so yeah, having left that a bit too late, let's say, then yeah, our decision was okay in the end, yes, let's plan a little bit economically that we can take longer. And I took, actually, so
Right.
in the end I took in total 9.5 months, but this
Yeah.
means 6 month unpaid leave.
Yeah. Because legally you're only entitled to
Si-
16 weeks, right? Yeah.
Correct. In Switzerland
Interesting.
it's only 16 weeks.
Well,
I
that's
mean,
something
there
I didn't know.
I mean, you can be lucky, as well. Let's say some companies, I know they have been extending that to have as an additional benefit, and also to help them to attract more
Yeah.
talents. And I really appreciate, and especially I think big, at least what I've seen, big companies taking this even to men and extending. So, for
Yeah.
example, when I was at eBay, actually, eBay expanded to, if I'm not mistaken, 4 months even for men, which for me
Wow.
it's amazing. And
Yeah.
that's really, I think, a great move, and definitely a really good thing to do, because
Yeah.
when companies start talking about supporting career for women, I really think one thing that plays there is about parental leave, and not being only the women who have to take, right? So having this opportunity to give men more parental leave definitely also helps as a family, I think, but
Yeah.
overall also, of course, for women, so that we don't fall behind when it comes to
Yeah.
career progression.
Also, as an immigrant, I suppose you don't necessarily have help here. So expats have that, it's a bit of a shortcoming. I remember I had my kid abroad as well, so we couldn't really count on grandparents or cousins or any network. Maybe au pairs and nannies, but that's about it. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
and in our case, my family is very far away. Exactly. So I'm half Brazilian, half Portuguese.
Yeah.
But yeah, really, my family, my mom and parents, siblings are in Brazil.
Yeah.
Of course, we have Manuel's family in Switzerland, but they also don't live very close to us. So
Yeah.
it's also a bit of a challenge, and therefore, yeah, it's pretty much Manuel and I.
Yeah. And I think the legislation changed recently. It was like 1 day for fathers to be absent from work if they had a child. This is quite absurd.
For me, it's crazy. Exactly.
I'm
I
surprised.
appreciate Switzerland in many aspects, and I think Switzerland is an amazing country, right? You have definitely security that, unfortunately, at least for
Yeah.
Brazil, our country, it falls behind. That quality in terms of education, many other things. But unfortunately, when it comes to, yeah, maternity leave, parental leave, I really believe Switzerland, unfortunately, is falling behind. So I really hope that they will improve in the future for the people who want to be. And probably, I do think the young generation should think about that. And I think the good thing as well in Switzerland, you can try to pull for a law, right? So if you come and you think something is important, you get some signatures. Of course, there is a whole process, but you can try to make this law change
Yeah.
or create new laws. And I really hope that the young generation, and not only, females. I mean, we are talking here about, in the end, I would look at it as a parental leave, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
men and women who want to have kids, or even not men and women. Of course, we have even the, right, all the type of couples, let's say, or
Yeah.
how they decide to have kids, or if you want to be single father or mom
Adopting.
or
Yeah.
whatever, right? All the different
Yeah.
that we have better support when it comes from the law, and then hopefully, because the law of course then helps to enforce companies to take another direction and to improve their
Existing
benefit.
benefits. Let's look into this actually in terms of benefits. So when I was doing a bit of research, we know that it's important to have the leave. I think these are some fundamentals for both the mother and the child. I think we all agree to this. It also promotes this aspect where what you mentioned in gender equality, supporting. Well, we're talking about mothers here today, but supporting parental leave as a whole, as a family unit, giving them the time to adapt to this massive change in their family life. Um, So when it comes to the rights here in Switzerland today, these are some of the fundamentals, right? There's certain hours that you cannot exceed to work, beyond your normal 8 to 6 or 9 to 5. This is really further enforced, I think, during that time. If you have like night shifts, then this is something that needs to be rethought and accommodated, and there is provision for that. There should be normally a place where you can rest, lie down, breastfeed within the sphere, within your working unit or working space. Did you know all that when you got pregnant? Did you hear about this? How did you get into all of these? Did you discover it along the way?
I must say, no, I did discover along the way. So especially the hours, right? That you cannot exceed 9 hours per day. And I remember it was during my pregnancy, but I was already a bit of advanced that a friend of mine told me, and I was, wow, that's really good to know, because
Yeah,
indeed sometimes, right, then you have pressure, you have a lot to deliver, but it's not that pregnancy is we are getting sick, but it's definitely brings challenges, and especially, for example, in my age, so I'm close to the 40s,
yeah,
and I did have some challenges during my pregnancy.
yeah. And it's your first, so I mean, it does slow you down. I remember being so tired, but
It's
not. It doesn't like you said. It's not an illness, right? We don't get dumber. We don't get, somehow forgetful. There are moments during the pregnancy where you're more vulnerable or prone to forget, but I think there's a lot of stigma around what happens during that time and also right after, like how you decrease in your abilities or skill set.
Yeah, it's
That's
definitely the
quite,
tiredness. Oh my
yeah,
goodness, it was, but also for me, it was challenging. Have to sit right the whole
yeah,
day, and even
yeah,
8 hours for me, it was already a lot, and I was having a lot of pain. So that was
yeah,
for me also a challenge.
yeah. This is well. I didn't know also about the night shifts. So if people are working, nurses and doctors, I think this is also important to mention. And then I was surprised to see that you don't necessarily have your full salary. So you mentioned 6 months was not paid and then 3 months paid. Like, so what can you expect financially speaking during your break? Can you enlighten us? Because it doesn't seem to be a given. You're not necessarily going to be making your full salary during that time, right?
No, you are right. So by law, again, it's 16 weeks paid, but it's 80% paid of your salary with a cap, actually. So even depending on your salary, right, if you are above a certain threshold, you are not going even to get 80% of your salary because they have a cap per day.
Right. And also like being absent, you still need a medical certificate during that period, right? As in you're not necessarily entitled to be off work just because you're pregnant. So you still need to present a medical certificate. This is, I don't know, a week, 3 days, however long you need to take.
Oh,
Did you
yes.
have to take time off?
So you, yeah. And sorry, because I was talking indeed about when you are already on the maternity leave, right?
Yes,
So
yes,
then you
sorry.
get this 16 weeks paid 80%, and there is a cap during the pregnancy. So if you need to be out of
Yeah,
the work because of any reason, then you're right. Unless you have the doctor, right, saying that you need to be out,
yeah,
um, you are not going to be paid. And in my case, for example, because I had these challenges, so in a certain point, my doctor then reduced me to 50%.
yeah,
So having a medical yeah,
support.
certificate, so
Yeah,
she said you are reduced. So then on this case, the company has to pay you the full salary independently if I was reduced to 50%
yeah,
whatever you were reduced, right? And even in one point, doctors might already put you on 100%
yeah,
sick leave. So it's still within this period until the baby is born, then yeah, you are still getting your full salary.
yeah, because that's a medical leave, right? Yeah,
Yes,
maternity leave. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's good to make the difference until the kid is born. It's a different kind of leave.
yes.
Yeah. So yeah, so the salary, I think that was a surprise for me and for some of us who might be watching today, and probably for yourself as well, Karina. God, I wish I had had this kind of information session before I got pregnant. No, it's not always obvious, but duration of these benefits, protections. So here, the maternity. So just to be clear, maternity leave starts when the kid is born. That is the day of the maternity leave start, and so you can have it for. I think here it says 14 weeks, but you mentioned 16. That's something that I have to double check there.
Yeah, that's true.
Um,
And sorry, maybe it's 14
maybe it's
weeks and I
14,
had
but
16 because I remember
19.
it's 3.5 months. So that
Yeah,
it's paid. So yeah, it's probably the 14 is actually
but
right.
I guess it depends also on the employer because maybe that can also vary.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So it really depends on the employer.
Yeah,
As I said, when I was working at eBay, they extended actually for women, they would get 6 month unpaid leave, which is
yeah,
for me like amazing. It's definitely
yeah,
a great benefit to
yeah,
offer. So there are some other companies. So it's really varies and depends on the company.
yeah. 80% of the earnings, and here's the ceiling: 220 francs per day,
Per
and
day.
no more than that during that time. Um, and here it says 2 weeks finally, but it's a very recent change in the legislation for fathers to be entitled to 2 weeks parental leave because before it was 1 day. That is quite insane.
And
Yeah, 1 day is just not enough time to figure out how you're going to set things up. Um, I remember, I think when I got pregnant, my husband, I think, got 1 week. Yeah, we were back in Korea. So it went by really fast. Yeah. So did you have family visiting at the time when the baby was born, or were you on your own?
no, I did. So
Yeah.
luckily, my parents came 2 months after he was born, and they stayed for 3 months to help me. And
Oh, nice.
definitely, that was much appreciated. It's funny that still, I believe, many people think, "Oh, you were on maternity leave, so you don't work anymore." And the work of a mother or a father, actually, let me put this way, right? It's
Yeah.
definitely for both, or it depends how it's in the end the tasks distribution among both each
Yeah.
of the person, right? It's just so much work. It's a 24 hours non-stop work. So it's definitely needed some support, as
Yeah.
much as you can.
It takes a village.
Yes. I mean, I say, I mean, of course, I always had full respect for mothers, but now even be on these shoes, I
Yeah.
can really say it's like or again, actually mothers and fathers, right? But
Yeah.
it's to a certain extent, especially depending in my case, for example, I was breastfeeding, and I know this is
Yeah.
a whole different topic, but
Yeah.
when you are breastfeeding, actually, there isn't much that a man can do in certain things. So it's really then on the women, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was another challenge. And then you don't sleep. So it's like, oof, I have full respect
Yes.
for all the parents, mothers.
Yeah. Who take on this challenge, and it depends also for how long. Did you breastfeed when you were back in the office and you pumped? So how did you manage that?
No, I was actually, to a certain extent, happy, I say, or
Yeah.
I feel happy that I felt that my son didn't want anymore.
Yeah, he knew you were going back to work.
Or, somehow the whole, as I said, it's a whole different topic, but breastfeeding for me, it's one of the biggest challenges in my life. It was. So I was happy that with 7 months, somehow I felt, like he doesn't
Yeah.
need anymore. He doesn't want. He's,
Yeah.
like having his other stuff. And that was for me much easier and a relief when I came back to work, because definitely,
It would
I mean,
be,
although I do have a bit, I appreciate the flexibility that my company is still offering for us in terms of a hybrid work. So I
yes,
don't need to go to the office, very
like every day.
regularly, because
Yeah.
that would be definitely a big challenge if you are breastfeeding.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so no, I'm happy, and yeah, as I said, it definitely made my life easier when you come back to work. I mean, if you have to do all the pumping and
Yeah.
oh, this is another level of stress. So I again full respect for the women who do that.
Yeah. The freezing, unfreezing. And would you also have to travel during this period for work? How did you manage that?
When I went back to work,
Well, yeah, like when you started work just after returning from maternity leave.
maternity leave,
Yeah.
I do. So I actually, our office is based in Basel. So
Yeah.
I do have to go to Basel from time to time. Sometimes, I go once per week, 2 times per week, and then we'll need to see if the company is changing a bit of the rules in terms of how frequent you need to be in the office. Um,
But you also have to travel abroad. No, you can
No,
remain.
luckily, actually, on this company, not. And for the moment, I must say, I'm also grateful for that, because definitely this would be a big challenge. And if you have kids, right? And I mean,
Yeah.
my son, it's still really small. And
Yeah.
of course, then it's also then if I'm away for a long period of time, it's really a lot of work for my husband.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a challenge. Oh my God. I didn't have to travel coming back from maternity leave. So I was able to be with him. Well, he's now 10. Now in terms of the slides, I don't want to share any further because I think we laid the ground for all the, let's say, obligations, rights for women having starting a new family here in Switzerland. But what I wanted to maybe exchange with you is what you were mentioning in terms of like it is quite challenging in itself to get back to work. Would you say that coming back from your break, even though I would argue that it was not a break, right? Would you say that you were more equipped to doing your job? And I don't know if you went back to the same role or not, because some women don't necessarily go back to exactly what they were doing before, because of course there's some arrangements and workarounds. But would you say you were more equipped as a professional? Because I know we built some skills during that period of survival.
Oh, for sure. I
You
really feel.
yeah, you would think so. No more skill set, time management.
Definitely. You exactly. I wanted to say one, definitely time management.
Yeah,
When you become a parent, I wouldn't even say just a mom, right? My husband also works 80%, which I
yeah.
also appreciate. So we really came to try to find the best model we thought would work for us as a family. Um, so yeah, time management. You really need to know how to prioritize your stuff as well, right? I mean, you there is just so much you can do in one day, because then you have to either you need to pick up your son at nursery, you need to give dinner, you have the bathing time, and bringing to bed and all of that, right? So you really need to um, be able to prioritize all the tasks, manage your time. Planning is another one. I mean, even though I really think, planning was one of my strong skills, or project management in general, but I think
Yeah.
I got even better because with a kid, again, right, it's so much on planning and coordination between the partner.
Yeah.
So having a clear schedule, who is doing what, that's definitely. And I think that also brings to work, depending, of course, what your job type is, but mostly today, right,
You can
you do
apply
need
these skills.
certain
Yeah.
project management skills and time management and
Planning
conflict
and
management, because you will also have many conflicts with your partner. I think this
right.
also it's another challenge when a kid
Yeah.
comes. So
Yeah.
also listening and um, I
Active
learned a lot.
listening.
Yeah, even from your kids, I really appreciate my son really helped me to also look to myself and identify some of the areas that I thought, well, actually about my knowing myself better, and even writing that find these areas that, oh, I need to improve this. I don't want, to show this to him, or that he gets this from me. For
Yeah.
example, the level of stress, or how I manage stress, how I actually express
Yeah.
when I'm nervous, and all of this. And this really helped me after my pregnancy, after maternity leave. I definitely then believe, you are a better professional, you're better equipped, and you can do even more. You become so strong, and you have energy that you don't even imagine you have. Because, for
Yeah.
example, I'm still actually after, so my son is turning 1 year next month,
Yeah.
and he doesn't sleep well. And
Yeah.
you need to, when you're back to work, you actually don't sleep well, and you still need to perform. You need
Yeah.
to be there, right? So, so you need to take all of this strengthness that is inside you, and
Vitamins.
yeah, a lot of coffee, a lot of
Yeah. To be very resilient. I can think of so many examples of, that I've lived myself. But would you, um, I mean, it's clear that being a parent is joyful. I think we won't question that. But would you say that, if your career was to continue linear as it was without this interruption, like, would you imagine your career to be stronger, maybe perhaps more focused with, travels abroad? Or do you think that you can still leverage all these skills that you've accumulated now and compete in the market just as hard as you were before? How do you see your ability to bypass this small interval um,
I definitely believe I'm as strong, or even more
than before?
knowledgeable writer, again, skill set. So I definitely believe, I don't think the maternity leave, let's say, as a professional, can damage our career. I really, with, let's say, an asterisk that, of course, he will be out for a certain period of time, and many things could happen on the
Yeah,
organization, right? So you could be not considered for promotions,
yeah,
or maybe opportunities come up and you are not there for that opportunity. But from experience, knowledge, skills, I don't think maternity leave will impact us at all. On the other hand, as we just spoke, I think I feel even more equipped and more prepared
yeah,
um, to deal with any problem,
yeah,
to drive any project, to manage people, and etc.
yeah,
I do think, though, that depending on your company and on the expectations, then it will come down to decisions and to priorities. And you, as a person and as a woman, then you will need to decide, do I want to really push my career now, or right? I mean, if it's expected for a certain role that you need to travel 30% or 50%, you will need to then make this decision. Do I want to do this? Can I do this? Do I have, right, the setup at home that will enable that? um,
Yeah.
or yeah, I think the going up, I definitely believe and see that is still companies expect as senior as you go,
Yeah.
you need to give more, you need to be more available,
Yeah.
right? Maybe they expect you to be on call, or
Yeah.
there are so many other expectations from a role that then you might need to decide again. I don't think that it's then just a non-stop, and hopefully organizations are not putting you on, how can I say, a different pool, and not even considering you just because you became a mom, which unfortunately it could still be the case, right? And I do think, and I know from other friends and experience, that yes, this can happen, unfortunately. And just by becoming a mom is, oh no, we can't consider her for this role, right? Or no, she's not going to want to push her career.
Yeah.
But hopefully, if you want that, you need to decide, and then knowing that there are compromises to do, that you will need a good support at home, right, from your partner, because of course it's still there are plenty of things that needs to happen for the kid,
Mhm.
or unless you have a nanny, as you said, right? So of course there are different options, and nowadays I think this will come down to budget, to
Yeah.
priorities, to your own personal choices. um, and then if you want, once you have done all of that, then I believe it's just talk to your manager, also be open, or right, they need to know that if you want to push your career, hey, I'm here, it's not because I became a mom. Please make sure, right, if there is an opportunity coming up, if there is a senior role, I really would like to be considered for that, because otherwise, if you don't say this, maybe then you will be on this case of not being considered. They might just think, oh, she's a mom, she has a small kid at home. No, she's not the
She's
right
not going to
candidate
be
for that.
available. There's a stigma, but there's also an interesting shift. I've experienced this myself, and I showed you this video, I think, the other day when we were talking about extending grace. It does come, like you said, it seems really simple, but it's hard to say, listen, I'd love to join this meeting, but I have to pick up my kid. Can we do it 2 hours later? Or can we do it early in the morning? Or can we shift it to Friday? When when you mention also hybrid work, to be able to work from home, maybe every other day, or I don't know how many days you have of home office. I mean, that's actually a luxury that we didn't have before COVID for a lot of the moms, right? And seeing this now, gives me hope. Seeing, for example, there's Women Plus Plus. They're organizing this hackathon for women, and they bring sometimes their kids along. So they found out this arrangement of, okay, bring the kids, doesn't matter, we'll put them in a separate room, and instead of just having them play, they can code too, and we'll teach them to code on languages that are kid friendly, like Scratch. Yeah. So I thought that was brilliant, and I believe that the future of work can and should um, somehow integrate children. It sounds a little futuristic, but the other day I was challenged by, I had a client meeting, and I had my son, and he's 10. Um, so he's not at the age of client meetings just yet. So I thought this is going to be challenging, because it was a lunch on a Saturday, and that was the only time. And so I had to make it work. So I brought him along, and he had his backpack, and he had his little chess board with him because he likes to play chess. And turns out my client also wanted to play chess, and they played together, and it was a great experience for all of us. Like, it was a really successful meeting where honestly I thought, I'm just going to bring him to all my client meetings now. Chess away. I was really impressed with with his demeanor, because they can actually understand, mommy has an important meeting, please behave. um, and and even somehow help, participate, contribute. I wouldn't say bring your kid to the office, but we are bringing the pets, and
Yeah, and why not, right? And I definitely agree with you that I hope companies will go into more flexible working, and not only considering hybrid, right, or the working hours, but yeah, why not? I mean, if you have a big challenge, for example, in Switzerland, and again, being an immigrant and not having family around, if my son has fever, he can't go to nursery, and just just a little bit of fever, so this means we need to pick him up, and yeah, what can we do, right? I might need, if I have an important meeting, either I need to move the meeting, or I need to have my son with me on the meeting. It is, right, the reality. And I really hope, yeah, I think there are more and more companies, or it also, I believe, comes down to leadership and to people in the end of the day, right? And how open they are for that. And I do believe that in general, people who have kids are already open minded and more flexible.
yeah,
It can get a bit trickier if you have people who don't have kids. And not
yeah,
in general. I don't want to generalize, right? I think there are people who don't have kids who still have a good understanding and will be flexible, but there are people who might not. And
yeah,
this will be a bit challenging. But again, hopefully, companies and people in general, because companies are made of people. So hopefully, as more new leaders, right? And hopefully, but also there is a bit of HR there really
yeah,
helping managers and driving this in terms
yeah,
of understanding and how can we make the work environment more flexible, inclusive, even in this aspect, that parents don't feel guilty or
for being
bad,
parents.
right, if they need to bring their kids to the office. I mean, if there is no one else to take care of the kid, or if you need to have a kid during a meeting, or
Yeah,
yeah, if you can't work, I don't know, then you say, I can't work now in the morning, but I will do in the evening once the kid goes home, right?
yeah. That's really interesting. I was talking with a friend who works in an engineering firm, and they have this Daughters Day where you're allowed to bring daughters to incentivize them and give them a little bit of, hey, this is an engineering firm, this is the plan, this is the manufacturing side, look it up. And they're received by, the heads and the general managers and the CEOs. So they really make time for these daughters, and in the hope to, reach more women engineers, and pave the way for these talents to come. Um, so I think modeling those behaviors can also make us feel less guilty, because there's a lot of guilt associated with parenthood.
Oh
I
yes, there
think
is.
becoming a mother just made me feel guilty so much more than I could imagine. It just a really terrible guilt trip for many women. I think whether I think if you're in the office, your head is at home. If you're at home, your head is in the office. There's a lot of yeah. We have to disassociate and dismember and multiply ourselves in that way. But I think it comes with a lot of skills to yeah, to harness, to develop, to leverage, to perhaps even monetize. Like time management would be definitely a big learning for me as well. I've woken up very early. Ever since I was a mother, my sleep pattern has changed, and I became very productive, definitely. Um, yeah, but I I hope you manage to plan the second one soon. I don't want
Oh.
to. Well, I'm still, I only have one, so I'm still like, maybe one day. But yeah, as I work independently from, I don't have an employer, so it would be on me to plan and to organize. But then I would have the flexibility to be at home, so other things, yeah, could I can benefit from that. But whether you're yeah planning to extend the family, what would you say today to people who are planning a family and they're not, necessarily in their home country? So think about these couples here in Switzerland, or maybe not a couple, maybe like a single mother, right? Or single, I don't know, setup. What would be your advice to them? An advice that you would have loved to receive when you were innocently
Um,
planning.
well, definitely thinking about the supporting system. I think that's very important, right? So if you don't have parents around, identifying already potential people to help, friends, or identifying already a babysitter, or in Switzerland you have the option of Tagesmutter that
Mhm.
at least on the German speaking part, it's called Tagesmutter. So I don't know how it would be in the French part, but it's basically a person whom you can bring your kid to her home, and she will take care of more kids in her home. And there is certain regulations for this in Switzerland, etc., etc. Also certain requirements, and I know you can go, I believe in Zurich, at least where I live. So you have the website where you can look for the officially registered, recognized Tagesmutter. Um, but definitely, one, the supporting system. Second, the setup, right? And again, maternity leave, how long do you want to stay home? Do you have the financial right that to allow that for you to stay longer? Or if you are not able, um, then you need to make sure after the 14 weeks, right, or whatever your time is, that you need to go back to work. Also, make sure you look for nursery really long time in advance, especially in big cities. So I don't know about Geneva, for example, other big cities, but Zurich can have a really long waiting list in a nursery. So it's called Kita in Zurich, the German speaking part. Uh, so you really need to plan. We started visiting Kitas when I was pregnant, and even some people said, "Whoa, you are already late." And indeed, I
Oh
think
wow.
we were lucky because, yeah, there are some, depending in which area you live in Zurich, you can have like 1.5 year waiting list. Or
Oh god.
I just met a father in the Kita where Teo goes, and he said, so they moved home. So they moved to close to the lake, to the Gold Coast in Zurich, and they were 2 years on the waiting list, and they still didn't manage to get for a full week. So they were able to send the kids there just 2 times per week.
Gosh. Oh
So
my
that's
god.
crazy. And definitely, for example, for me being a Brazilian, I would never think of that. I mean, in Brazil and in São Paulo, I come from São Paulo. I mean, you can find a nursery anytime. I mean, you have so many options. Okay, maybe you need to take the kid a bit further away, but definitely finding a place like a nursery for your kid, it's not going to be a big deal. So
Mm.
definitely, probably is not on top of Brazilian parents, in terms of the priorities and what you need to do. I would
No.
say in Switzerland, this should be on top of your list. So finding a kita or finding whatever, right? I mean, is it that after you will have a babysitter or you have an au pair? Really, you need to plan this in advance and have already clear. I think another advice, especially for women, is think about as well how you want to go back to work. Do you want to go 100% back? Do you want to go lower than that? Or even not the women, the men as well. Actually, as I said, so in our case, we both wanted to have some time for our kid. So we both asked if we could work 80%. And you really need to talk to your manager in advance. And there are some companies that will not even allow that. Um, so it's really considerations you need to make far in advance, right? Because then, yeah, I mean, are you happy to go back 100%, or if not, what are you going to do, right? Because as I said, legally the companies in Switzerland, they are not obliged to accept if you want to lower your contract. So if you have 100% contract, the company can say no. And if you don't want to work 100% anymore, then you need to quit. And that's it. So
Yeah.
it's really, I think, important considerations. So this is all the advice I would give, that you need to talk with your partner, or if you are a single father, a single mom, you will need to think about all of this in advance and make decisions and make sure that you plan ahead.
It's good to note that you're not going to be fired while on maternity leave, but you could when you're back. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
it's true. Another thing in Switzerland, so they can fire you as soon as you go back to work,
yeah,
which is also, unfortunately, I think for some women, the case that I already heard, that they were fired when they came back from maternity leave.
yeah, yeah. This is this is hard to swallow and to understand for many reasons. But I'm really thankful that you were sharing these gold nuggets with us, Karina. Thank you so very much for opening up and giving us all this wisdom. I really wish I had that when I was not planning my maternity leave. I innocently thought, oh yeah, of course it's a right and I'll take it. But it was
Oh,
a hard lesson.
no, thank you for the invite. And again, I really think that, yeah, we women need to support each other. Of course, not only women, right? But I do think we can be stronger if we talk, if we help each other, if we share our experiences. And I do believe there are some topics still there can be taboos, or that women don't want to talk about. There is also a bit of different perceptions in the society, right? I must say, at least here in Switzerland, I did have the experience that sometimes people will be even shocked if you say I'm going back to work
After the baby.
100% or 80%. So, and you can be judged in different ways. So if you are not going back to work, then you can also be judged. Oh my gosh, this woman just wants to be home. But then if you go back to work, oh my gosh, we're a terrible mother, or all of this. And I really think we women shouldn't do this to each other.
Yeah,
I mean, especially, right? I hope in general in this society is not a problem. So that for men or women, and again, right, I think as we are evolving and going, and we are in a different generation, hopefully it's more and more understood that having a kid is not only the woman job, or right. So again, it's not only our job to be at home,
yeah,
it has to be all discussed. And of course, I think there will have different situations, and every couple, right, or every person will have its own situation, so will make the decisions based on their situation or their priorities. But I really hope that it's more and more understood. It's about being parents, and or how we share this, how we women are not stigmatized or judged, independent, whatever you decide to do. If you want to be a mom and be at home, it's great, and you should get the support and admiration as well, because again, it's a really tough job. Or
yeah,
if you go back to work, and whatever percentage you go back to work, it's fine and it's all good. And that more and more companies can also offer this flexibility, because really I was disappointed, and still disappointed, to see that companies keep saying we want to support women, we need to reduce gender gap, and etc., etc. But then where are the senior positions available for less than 100%? I mean, I'm sorry. So again, as a woman, if you want to have a senior position, you will be expected to work 100%. Or even as a father, let me actually put this way, right? So
yeah,
as senior as you go, companies are expecting you to work 100%. But what about the kid, you know?
Where does it go?
Where does it go? Where
Yeah,
does it fit on that? So please give the opportunity. And again, there might have people who don't want, and it's totally okay as well. And I respect that, right? I mean, there are people who will say, no, actually, I do want to work 100%. I have a great setup. I have a nanny, or I have whoever. I have my mother, father, whoever will look after the kid. And it's, again, right, and we respect that. But for the people who want to have some time with the kid, the company should give the opportunity for them to have a bit of flexibility, reduce their working hours at least in a certain period of time, so let's say 1 2 years, when it's very critical for the development of the kid. And then after, you can always go back to the table and assess that and
yeah.
reassess, right? But give this option, because otherwise, I really feel that, again, career wise, yes, sometimes you don't have the same opportunities. I mean, unless you make sacrifices, or right, you make decisions, and you then need to decide what is a priority for you, you are not able to grow your career.
Oh my God, this is so critical. I think this is going to be a really good anchor for the next live, where we're going to talk about diversity, whether it's in the workplace or well, mostly in the workplace. um, but we will have two guests talking about belonging, inclusion, and this is definitely one of the topics that I will bring to them to continue the conversation. It will be in June 8th. We will continue to, well, June is all about diversity, anyways. And so we will continue to develop the topic further, Karina. But I want to thank you so very much for being with us today. We're getting to the top of the hour, and I want to let you go back to your little one, put him to sleep. And this is all about work-life balance. We're doing it, but on our own time. And maybe we cannot have it all at the same time, but we eventually will have it all.
For sure. No, thank you again, Rebecca, for the opportunity and for driving this. As you said, I would also have appreciated if I would have some opportunities like this live to learn from other people, and from their experiences. So yeah, thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
driving this.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure to have you. And it's the first of many. We'll have more topics to develop as you're growing your little one. And thank you very much for taking time for us tonight. And yeah, I will let you go back to Teo, and we will have another live very soon on inclusion, diversity, and belonging. I think that will also be a great opportunity, because we don't necessarily think about including parents. We think about other forms of inclusion. So this is also something I want to keep in 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 the front of my mind.
Awesome. That's
Sharing
great.
your experience was really valuable. Thank you again, Karina.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for staying here with us.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
And